What if the spirit of our ancestors were always watching over us? In many African traditions, ancestral spirits are more than just memories. They are guardians, messengers, and judges of the living. They move unseen, whispering through winds, appearing in dreams, and protecting bloodlines. But what happens when mortal forgets them, or worse, offend them? This was the story of Obinna, a young man who thought ancestral tales were just bedtime stories until one fateful encounter changed everything. Obinna has just returned from the city to his home village of Njuku after his father's funeral. As the only son, he was expected to perform the final rites known as Igwa Unso, a sacred ancestral cleansing, but he refused. "Those things are outdated," he said. "I believe in science, not spirits." The elders warned him. The Dibia, who was a spiritual seer, warned him. Even his mother wept quietly, begging him to complete the rites. But Obinna was stubborn, hardened by years in the city, where tradition was seen as superstition. He left his village without performing the rites. A storm gathered that evening. His younger cousin, Ekini, who has been very close to their late father, wept silently. "You will return differently," the boy murmured. Obinna returned to the city, confident and proud. But soon, strange things began to happen. At first, he could not sleep. Every night, he heard faint drums echoing in the distance. The sound grew louder with each passing night. Shadows lingered in corners of his apartment. Cold breeze drifted through closed windows. Then came the voices. He heard his father's voice calling him, not in memories, but from dark corners, from reflections, even from his phone when it was off. He once found a calabash filled with water and blood beneath his bed, though he lived alone. Work began to suffer. He missed deadlines. He lost clients. He was accused of negligence and fired from his job. Even worse, he was accused of theft at his new job, a setup by someone he trusted. His relationship with Amaka, his girlfriend, crumbled. She left him after claiming his presence brought her nightmares. Desperate, he turned to online forum, trying to understand what was happening. He came across stories from other Africans. A Ghanaian man who said his girlfriend appeared in a dream to warn him of betrayal. A woman from Benin who believed her ancestors protected her child from an illness. He spoke to an old friend who had become a traditionalist. Obinna began to keep a journal. He wrote down dreams filled with forests, fire, masked dancers, and blood. One night, he sleepwalked. His neighbor found him standing at the junction with ashes smeared on his face, muttering in a language no one could understand. It made the news. He returned to his mother's house. She gave him an old journal, his grandfather's, filled with stories of ancestral encounters. She said nothing more. Obinna stayed that night. He dreamt of fire, a burning forest. At the center, a masked figure stood chanting in a language he did not understand. When he woke up, his pillow was soaked with sweat, and outside, the wind howled like voices. It happened 3 days later. Obinna was alone in his apartment. Rain lashed the windows. Thunder cracked the sky. The power went off. In the darkness, he lighted a candle. As he turned, he froze. In his father's old chair sat a figure, not blurry, not ghostly, but tree, his father, or something that wore his father's face. "Obinna," the spirit said, "why have you abandoned us?" Obinna trembled. "I do not know. I did not believe. You broke the chain. The spirit said, we protected you. Now you are alone. The spirit reached out. Obina collapsed. Unconscious, he walked up in the shrine of Undweku, surrounded by elders and his mother. They had found him the next morning, unconscious, barefoot, miles from the city, standing at the edge of the forest. He remembered none of the journey. Obina completed the rite. He shaved his head. He stayed in silence for 7 days. He offered kola and poured libation at the ancestral altar. During this time, he witnessed things, visions of his ancestors, moments in the lineage past, the suffering of those who had broken spiritual ties. He saw himself among them, drifting in limbo. The community watched as he embraced the tradition he once rejected. He danced with the masquerade. He cooked for the elders. He sat under the Iroko tree and listened to the stories of his ancestors. On the 7th night, he dreamt again, but this time he saw his father smiling beside a great tree. His grandfather stood there too. They said nothing, but they nodded. When he returned to the city, things slowly improved. He found peace. He found new work. He felt guided. He began visiting schools and community, telling his stories, not as a warning, but as a reminder. A reminder that the dead are not gone, that the chain must never be broken. Years later, Obina became a renowned spiritual advocate. He helped families, rediscovered lost ties. He created a foundation to preserve African spiritual heritage. And every year, on the date of his father's death, he returned to Unjuku to perform the rites with Ekene now beside him as a grown man.